Gentlemen, we will continue this event to parallel session 2 that will be moderated by Mr. Dhani Akbar. For Mr. Dhani Akbar, time and place is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, invited speakers, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very glad here among you today. I will be the presenter, I'm gonna be the moderator for this presentation. For invited speakers for the second panel parallel session, I would like to invite the offline presenters, Professor Dr. Agung Dhamar Syakti, SPIDA, to the stage. Please, Prof. Also for today's second parallel sessions, we're gonna have the two others invited speakers from Edith Cowan University of Australia, Dr. Ferry. He will be with us by online today. Good afternoon by Indonesian time, Dr. Ferry.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah. And next is Professor Hendri. Sorry if I misspell your name. From University of MACIFIC. Okay.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Prof. For today, for the first presenters, for invited speakers, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Agung Dhamar Syakti first for the first speaker for today. But before he deliver his presentations, I would like to say about this short CVs about Professor Dr. Agung Dhamar Syakti. He is the Marine Science and Fisheries Faculties from Universitas Maritim Raja Ali Haji. His expertise is environmental chemistry, marine pollutions, bioremediations, microbial ecology, and he is from doctoral degree from Aix-Marseille, France. Professor, please, time is yours.
Well, okay, thank you very much, Chair. Allow me to stand up, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's very honor to me to be with you here in this MACIFIC. Yes, please, the operator, could you help me to prepare my presentation? Okay, well, I would like to present my research work. That's the collaboration amongst the three universities, which is the Raja Ali Maritime University. I'm Agung Dhamar Syakti with my colleague Dina Fitria, and also we work together with the lecturer from the Jenderal Sudirman University, Ms. Nuning Vita Hidayati, and also Professor Pierre Dumain from Aix-Marseille University. And this is the title of my presentation. This is just the environmental sample stability for the pharmaceutical compound analysis, handling, preservation, and recommendation. this morning, Professor Bowing has mentioned about what we call the emerging pollutant, and one of the emerging pollutant which we will study today is some pharmaceutical compound. And yes, to begin with my presentation, I would like firstly to state what's the objective we are looking on in this conducted research, which is to assess the stability of the targeted pharmaceutical compound. You know here, for instance, we have we have acetoaminophene. You know, acetaminophen we use in daily use, or what we call with the popular name is paracetamol. Somebody, if you getting the headache or something like that, you will consume the acetaminophen. So we will like to know how to detect the acetaminophen in the environmental sample, which is in the aquatic sample, or in the soil, or even in the air. Yeah. And another compound we study here is the three antibiotics, which is the sulfatometaxazole and also oxytetracycline and trimethoprim. And another emerging pollutant which is very little known is the steroid hormone, which is an example we use here is the ethynyl estradiol. And why this study is quite important? The rationale of the study is very important because this compound is often occur in the environment with the very low concentration, and sometimes it's quite difficult to detect. So and also they can easily degrade it physically or even biologically. And also, so I tell you that our partner is coming from Aix-Marseille University in France, in southern France. So sometimes if we, you know, in Indonesia, especially in our university, we don't have so many sophisticated analytical instruments. So that's why we have to collaborate with our colleague from the developed countries such as France to help us to make some analysis. So when we bring our sample from Indonesia to our partner country, we don't know whether the sample is already degraded or not. So that's why we want to understand the stability of the sample before prior to the analysis. And also, but for this presentation, I just want to focus on the stability study on the HPA cartridge, which is the very preliminary result in order to assess the stability in terms of the when we storage this sample within the time and also with the different temperature. For the second objective, I don't want to. I'm sorry. I think I don't have so many time to explain it today. So the methodology, how we can determine these processes. The first thing we have to produce what we call the artificial seawater. So basically, we can create the artificial seawater from different salt, and then of course we will spike it with the 5 compounds we will study, acetaminophen and 3 antibiotic and also steroid, and then we going to first do in the chromatography column, which is solid phase extraction, solid phase extraction. I'm sorry, I don't know why this is very. Oh, coming back. Pardon. Yes, this column is solid phase extraction, and after that we store it in the dark, in the obscurity. One we put in the negative 18 degree, 4 degree, and also 25 degrees Celsius or in the room temperature, and then we store it during the 6 months, and we try to analyze it during the several time experimentation. And this is the step of the work. Before we do that, of course, we have to make some stabilization of the instrument we use, which is the ultra performance liquid chromatography. We try which wavelength the very give the good response for the target compound, and after we have to make the optimization of the solid phase extraction, which is by modifying different composition of the elution solvent, and then we have to make some method validation. We want to know how the linearity of the response, how the accuracy, the precision, extraction, recovery, and so on. And then we conduct the stability study by varying the time storage and also the storage temperature. And after that, we can use it for the application for emergent sample, in order to understand, to determine the occurrence of the pharmaceutical compound in the water or in the environment, and then we can also make it as the basics result for the assessment of ecological risk. This is the instrument and quality assurance. According to ICIS guideline, USEPA, the linearity should be, the calibration curve should be performed with the coefficient of determination more than 0.99%, 99, I'm sorry. And then the accuracy and precision, the accuracy maximum relative error should be less than 5%, and coefficient of the variation, which is representing the precision, should be maximum 5%, and method detection limit and also method of quantification limit is about 0.3 to 0.9 nanogram per liter and 0.9 to 1.5 nanogram per liter respectively. And also the extraction recovery should be more than 80%. Well, this is, if you got it, you can store your sample before the analysis. Okay, and then after the study for the holding time and the storage temperature is from 0 to 6 months, after the pre-concentration, and with the different temperature, which is the frozen, cold, and the room temperature. And here our result was okay. By using the ultra performance liquid chromatography coupled with the ultra violet chromatography, I can show you here the chromatogram of the different compound, which is the can relatively distinct and also can be clearly separated with the different retention time. So it's very good to make the separation. And if you can see here, when we try to make some combination of the elution solvent, which is we use here the acetonitrile, ACN is acetonitrile, combined with the water, and you can see here. I can see here, I'm sorry, you can see that the different variation of the composition of the elution solvent give the different results. So of course, through the histogram, we can see that we can say that the composition 90 per 10 acetonitrile compared to the water is the best result. The best is in this histogram. So then after that, we can see also when, for example, the acetoaminophene, when we store in the 25 degree, 4 degree, and in below is the in frozen, in negative 18, we can see that the acetoaminophene can be relatively stable even for the 160 days. So the concentration of the degradation is about less than 20%. And for the oxytetracycline, for example, the degradation is quite important. During the 6 months, we see it's about already 30% has been degraded. So we cannot keep it into with this time. For another SMX, sulfamethoxazole is better than the previous one. We can see here's when you put it in the 4 degree, for example, the degradation is already degradation is quite low. When you, I'm sorry, I cannot show you with this laser. Yeah, mass laser. Okay, and also for CMP again, yeah, we can see also that the degradation is occur, but I think the best is we have to use directly during the less than 2 days. Yeah, the same also for the SMX. Yeah, we can see here the result, and for TMT again. Yeah, so and this is for the last, the steroid. The steroid, you can see also that the degradation is with the color the orange. The degradation is about the 15%. So the conclusion, I think this simple preparation technique we conduct during the first sample, the temperature 4 degree is in the and putting in the obscurity or in the dark is the recommended. And also prior for the analysis, the sample can be stored at the room temperature during only the 2 days. If you want to put the sample in the longer time, you have to put in the frozen condition is less than 18%. Okay, thank you for your attention, and I would like to thank the Kemdikbudristek with the Penelitian Kompetitif Nasional that we are conducting today, and this preliminary result has been also submitted to the international journal with namely Helios that currently is under review. Hopefully after this research we can try to do the real environmental sample that we can conduct it by based on our previous result. Thank you for your attention. I give the floor to the moderator.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Please once again give warm applause to Professor Agung Dhamar Syakti. What I know is, I hopefully is very valuable for how the assessment to the ecological risk, right, Professor? Okay, thank you very much, Professor Agung Dhamar Syakti, and I will move to the second presenters for today. Associate Professor Ferry G, PhD FGS, VCIRT, from Edith Cowan University of Western Australia. Before we move to Dr. Ferry G, I would like to read some CV from him. Ferry G is Associate Professor in Supply Chain and Logistics Management in the School of Business and Law. He is currently Secretary of the Chartered Institute Logistics and Transport, SILTA, in Western Australia as a committee. He is also the Supply Chain and Logistics Association of Australia committee. Professor, Associate Professor Ferry G, can you hear my voice?
Yep, I can hear you very well.
Okay.
Thank you.
We are pleased to hear your presentation. The floor is yours. Okay.
All right. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to say thank you so much to invite me as speaker for today's session in Day 1 conference. So as you can see, my name is Ferry G. I'm currently Associate Professor in Supply Chain Logistics Management at Edith Cowan University in Western Australia. So I'm so sorry I cannot just come in person to be a speaker due to still teaching, for this week at university. So I would like to show it to you my research project in a supply chain sustainability management for future research opportunity. So I would like to give you my email address and WhatsApps if you want to reach me for research collaboration, since I'm doing research in supply chain, transportation, sea freight, and also logistics for more than 20 years for my project. So this is my details. So I currently publish more than 77 journal articles in the last 8 years, and all papers are published in the Q1 and Q2, and also have received more than 1.85 million Australian dollars between 2010 and 2022. All right, so that research grants currently I'm doing for in the logistic transport in the digital competencies in the Australia energy industry. So this project just starting and will be finishing in 2024. The project for COVID-19 just completed in early this year for business continuity and resilience, capacity building and upskilling post-COVID-19 project. Those are my projects, research grants, and those papers already published in the top tier journals, and some of the papers are still under review. For example, in the Q1 International Journal of Logistic Management, Supply Chain Management and International Journal, and Asia Pacific Journal of Marketing and Logistics. Okay, so everybody knows about supply chain management. So as you can see, management of all activities that facilitate the fulfillment a customer order for a manufactured good. So that supply chain, we need several operational activities, including we working very closely with your suppliers who provides the raw materials, components, spare parts, work in progress material to the factory or to the manufacturer. And we have also purchasing, procurement activities, transportation. As you know, we have different types of transportation by road, by sea, by air, pipeline, for example, and intermodal mode, for example. So, for example, I'm currently doing a few projects with the Fremantle Port, with the sea freight, and also intermodal transportation performance. And the next one is a demand forecasting, as well as inventory management. As you can see, for COVID-19, a lot of problems in this demand shock or empty shelf in the supermarket. So that is a problem with inventory as well as a demand forecasting problem. And the next activity, what we call managing supply risk and uncertainty that may disrupt the supply chain function. And a lot of my project currently has been done in the supply chain performance for the Australia food industry, food and beverages, as well as, in the oil sector. And last, for the ensuring sustainability, as you know, sustainability is a triple bottom line. We're looking at the economic, social, and environmental impact in the supply chain management. So if you look at supply chain structure, so it's an end-to-end supply chain. So for example, like cereal company, as a focal firm, if you look at the upstream supply chain, first tier we have a flour processor, second tier we got farmer, and the third tier we got forest, right? And then as a downstream supply chain, first tier we have a grocery distributor, retailer, as well as consumers. Now, in the product and services, actually for the supply chain, coming from the upstream to downstream supply chain. And as you know, supply chain is not only product and services, but also information and planning. Supply chain is not only for product, as well as for hotel industry. So can I just give you a video presentation about Coles is the largest supermarket in Australia, to give you an idea of supply chain at the largest supermarket in Australia. I want to share just a couple minute video presentation about Coles supermarket. Okay, so everybody can see for Coles supermarket. So just check everybody. Okay, I just want to make sure everybody can hear the sound.
Coles has been part of the Australian retail environment for over 100 years. Starting from a single store on Smith Street in Collingwood in 1914, we've now transformed into the nation's #1 supermarket with over 750 supermarkets, 800 liquor stores and 600 convenience stores. With a workforce of over 100,000 nationally, it's quite a big operation, as you can imagine, to move all of these products around the country. We have a distribution centre network of 25 DCs, which we have in every state with the exception of the Northern Territory, which move millions and millions of pallets every year and billions of individual items into store for sales to our customers. As you can imagine, on a business as large as Coles, we rely heavily on our business-to-business or B2B e-commerce. We use this in conjunction with our partners at GS1. We use a whole bunch of their tools, so our trade identification numbers, so all of the barcoding, etc., that you see, not only on the individual items you'll buy at store, but on the master cartons that move through our DCs on pallets, which allow us to efficiently and easily track everything moving through our system. This has real advantages for us at Coles in the fact that it allows us to utilise such things as the electronic data interface, and in particular the advanced shipping notices, ASNs. The real benefit of this is it allows our suppliers to send through to us in advance of all of the shipments they're sending into our DCs, which once the DC are aware of that and is coming in, allows them for fast and efficient receipt into the DC and further put away. And with millions and millions of cartons and pallets passing through our network every year, the ability to put these to bed quickly into the DC is really, really key. Another great feature from GS1 is their recall tool.
Okay, so maybe I just stop for a moment and I continue again for the slide. So as you can see, like Coles, integrate for the supply chain and logistics management and working very closely with the GS1. They use technology to support the supply chain. So this slide just continue about evolution of supply chain. So I don't want to explain a little bit more for this. So supply chain is historically, it was born in 1990s, right? Before that, it's a lot more activity fragmentation. For example, start from demand forecasting, purchasing, warehousing, material handling, packaging, and so forth. So 1980s, so we have what we call integrated logistics. So it's purchasing, material management, as well as physical distribution. So then 1990s, we have supply chain. And then in 2010, what we have that is supply chain industry 4.0. So after that's COVID, and that's why we have supply chain digital transformation. So now what I just would like to share with you in my project is a supply chain in terms of sustainable supply chain management. So the environmental aspect that integrated together with the traditional supply chain approach, developing into the concept and sustainable supply chain. So it's been a while, start in 2010. So it's nearly like 14 years in terms of the literature in the environmental impact on the supply chain traditionally. Sustainability supply chain is grounded upon the traditional concept supply chain. So it's, it's nearly like 10 years, 12 years now for sustainability supply chain. So I mentioned before, sustainability is ability to utilize resources to meet the present demands and needs without compromising resources for the future generation. And I mentioned before the triple bottom line for sustainability, right? So what is a sustainability supply chain management? It is the set of the managerial practices that involve the flow of information and capitals among organizations along the supply chain. So considering economics, environmental, and social requirement in all stages of the chain, including product life cycle. So if you look at literature review, so you can see my paper has been published already in a top-tier journal. The literature review surrounding in sustainable supply chain management. So I don't want to spend a lot of time in the literature review, for the sustainability supply chain. So my paper actually published in the systematic literature review. As you know, if you have a paper like concept paper, based on the systematic literature review, you can do research that in a maritime, submarine project, you can use a systematic literature review or bibliometric, method. Say, for example, systematic literature review, the keyword what we did is sustainable supply chain and a big data, for example. And the database, you can see we got so many different types of journal database. We collect the literature, we know the literature, and we comprehend the literature and apply, and then we analyze that literature. Okay, so we come up with that particular literature in the supply chain, big data analytics, right? So systematic literature review to investigate the application of big data in sustainability supply chain management. So the results indicated that big data analytics techniques usually use the predictive and prescriptive approaches rather than descriptive approach. So it's been a while in the last 4 years, but both are actually having that paper there about big data analytics use a predictive and prescriptive approach. Now, to identify the effect of big data and predictive analysis on two aspects of sustainability, including environmental and social aspect. So it's quite new, the paper. They're looking at two different aspects. So Dubey actually in 2019 published in the paper about big data use predictive analysis for that. So in terms of the methodology for research, we have a different types, variety of research methods, such as the multi-objective optimization model for the green transport, a green supply chain, and we use the different types of operation research technique, right? So in the 2017, Zhao actually having that paper in regard to the supply chain using big data analytics, with the multi-objective optimization model. Now, if you look at the theories in the supply chain, or we normally use the theoretical underpinning of the research or the paper or in the journal. So it depends when you publish in the top tier journals such as the supply chain, logistic, transportation, or even sea freight, for example, we need to apply a theoretical underpinning such as the complexity, transaction cost economics, resource dependent theory, or social network, institutional theory, ecological modernization theory, for example, that theory is the underpinning for the research project. Now, since we are in the new era for the post-COVID-19, so a lot of papers now published about COVID-19. So as you can see, after 2023 beyond, no more call for paper for COVID-19. So if you have a lot of research project about COVID-19, write the paper and publish it now, because you can't wait, because otherwise in terms of relevancy and the contextualization is no more after 2024, right? Unless we found a new strain actually after Omicron, it's going to be problem in the future, then it's going to be still relevant or related with the COVID-19 papers. So I can suggest to you, if you have a COVID-19 papers, you need to write it now and publish as soon as possible, because after 2024, a lot of papers no more actually call for paper about COVID-19 project. But this is, I just want to share with you in the slide, in terms of practicality in the new era as a supply chain professional, logistic transportation professional, what we're going to do for the businesses. So the business need to restructure your supply chain framework. You know, maybe your suppliers no longer, they discontinue their business. You need to restructure your supply chain model or framework and build a supply chain localization, pivot product services to appeal local markets. And again, we introduce supply chain digital transformation, digital to reduce dependency in human labor, rely on supply chain collaboration, working very closely with the vendors, third-party logistic providers, even with the government, right? Introduce supply chain lean and agility, which means that we reduce costs and quick response for any changes, uncertainties in the supply chain. We're working very closely with local businesses to increase demand and reach of the markets. Increase upskilling local staff, business continuity planning, and also introduce supply chain adaptation, preparedness, recovery, and sustainability. Okay, so I don't want to spend too much time about future research in SSCM, but if you read a lot of papers, you know, especially when you read the journal article, on the back of the paper, sometimes they introduce what a future research. This is very good for the researcher, especially for doctorate student, if you want to do research topic or select a good topic from that paper. Again, you need to read a very good journal, in a top tier good journal. Unfortunately, you know, you can't simply like rely on the non-ranked journal or, you know, very low impact factor like a Q4 beyond, because that's something you produce, you know, not good quality for your research project or your dissertation. So future research in sustainability supply chain is supplier relationship, network design, procurement, cyber security, as you can see, the information security, agile supply chain sustainability, lean agile, which means that lean plus agility supply chain sustainability. Of course, big data, analytics, sustainability supply chain research. As this is traditional supply chain research in the future. Still a lot of people, researchers doing traditional supply chain still, but you know, unfortunately, if you publish in top tier journal, we just need to consider must be innovative research or more creative research project. All right. Okay. So this is a list of my publication related to sustainability supply chain, published in the Q1, you know, minimum Q2. So yeah, so that is a list of publications related to sustainability and supply chain management. Okay, so I may stop for this moment. Sorry about this little bit over time. So I would like to say thank you so much for listening. So I'm more than happy to take any questions, feedback, comments, and now I hand over to moderator. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Give applause for Dr. Ferijo. It's very interesting that the point is like extricable linkage between the sustainable supply chain with the development goals. Okay, maybe move to the next invited speakers, Professor Hendri. Professor Hendri, are you with us? Okay. Kumung alobu, Professor? Kumung telugu. Okay. Professor Hendri is expertise in competitive intelligence for insular territories, if I'm not mistaken, Professor. Professor, maybe we can have your presentations for the next. The floor is yours, Professor.
Okay, so no problem. So what do you want to process? You pass the slide one after the other, or you want me to share the screen? Okay, can you see?
Yes, Prof.
Can you see the screen correctly?
Yes, Professor.
Yes, we can see your slides, Hendri.
Okay, so no problem. So I am going to process. So what I would like to do with you is to share some information about some experience in developing an overview of islands problems. And this is what I call this presentation advocacy for islands. I have been involved from several years, more than 40 years, in strategic intelligence. And globally speaking, I have a background of chemist, but I moved to information sciences. And in strategic intelligence, we are looking for the search of holistic model. Holistic means global models, which are able, as a macroscope, to see what will be coming on in the future trends in mainland. So islands, because of their size, because they concentrate many problems from sea rising, from the ocean problem, from the dryness, from the impact of the weather change and so on, and the social culture and so on, are really interesting because they represent models which can be used to have some sort of forecast of what will be going on. And this is very important to have this idea that islands could be a model which could be interesting to really understand all the interactions between many type of areas and other type of things which will interact. So if we look at the conference topics, what is interesting to see is that most of the MACIFIC topics are present in globally many islands. And Indonesia, which is a country with practically 18,000 islands, could be interested in developing some sort of vision, of global visions, picking up the islands which are the most interesting and which will concentrate various types of problems to see how the solution can be pulled out and how the solution can be applied after on the mainland.
Excuse me, Professor, sorry to interrupt you. Could you please make the slideshow into full screen? Into the slideshow mode.
Okay.
Okay. That's much more better.
Okay. So I will begin again. I will say that most of the conference topics of the MACIFICs can be found in many islands. And islands are a concentrate of problems. Problems which are coming from the sea because they are really islands. Problems coming from social behavior of people because the culture is very strong. Problem coming from the weather change, problem coming from industrial pollutions. So this is very interesting now to look to island as a sort of systems which enable people when they work on all the problems which are occurring at the same times to find solution or to see what will be happening on the mainland. Today there is a strong concern with the development of island research. For instance, in Europe, we have some representative of all the islands, the European islands, which work together in a network to develop solutions which could be applied after on the mainland. For instance, the tourism management, pollution management, sea rising management, dryness, agriculture management, and so on. And as an example here, you have competitive intelligence for insular territories, which is a paper that we provide in the different congress. We are speaking of the role of the island in the sort of early warning signals to be understood. So now, when you look to island, we go directly into what we call the predicament. Predicament is a term in English, which have a no translation in French, by the way. I don't know if there is a translation in Indonesian, but this is everything which is going on Earth, which is coming up, and we cannot manage. We are going to really have the impact of weather change, have the impact of pandemic and so on, but you can really manage it. I mean, you can really prevent it. We will have to submit all these sort of things. So if you see the weather change, island will be the subject of sea rising, hurricane, flood, dryness. On the point of view of culture, you have the social archetypes of people, the tradition, and the sort of hierarchy, the way of life, which is very important, which are very important. Food could be linked to sustainable agriculture, fishing, fisheries, conservation, storage, distribution. Technologies could be affordable to solve the problem. So if we want to look at that, you have to go to the scientific literature analysis, as well as the patent analysis, mapping, taking the information which should be relevant, and go to strategic intelligence to really help the determination of right solutions. Geopolitics are very important. The political impact of the position of the island, the influence, the networks, and this call also for strategic intelligence to monitor the geopolitical situation of island. Governance is also important because you have the predicament, the resilience, the response to ODD, Objective of Sustainable Development, inequality and commons, and healthcare. So in fact, when you look to all these elements, you can find islands which will concentrate all of them and which could be a model to make a research which should be very useful, because in this research you will have all the elements which could be found after on the mainland and could be used to solve the problems. So all these elements should be analyzed independently, but all together. Most of the people look to those elements one after the other. This is a vertical thinking. But if you look to all the interaction of these elements between each other, you will be able to approach the problem with different types of solutions. This means pluridisciplinarity, island global research, programs with strong link with local authorities. It is obvious that decision could be taken, decision at the level of political authorities, and when you are looking to all the system as a whole, you will have some sort of recommendation which can be done to the local authorities. And this plead for the development of what we call strategic intelligence unit, which will be able to link research, problems which are arising in different islands, and providing some sort of solutions. So this is important because today, when you look research in university, you are obliged to think to do things. Research is a transformation of money into knowledge and competencies. Because you have the state which pays the university, you have the fees of the student and so on, and this grants eventually, and this money transform knowledge, can help to create knowledge and competencies. But if you stop to this way, you will have just half of the way, because innovation processes are really linked to the fact that the knowledge and competencies that you have created should be transformed in money. That means that you have to transform your knowledge in some actionable knowledge which will help people to be actionable, to will help people to make a solution, which will help people to really take right solutions. And this is why islands are a real laboratory today, which could be interesting for universities, for local authorities to find solutions, because they concentrate many types of problems. So I have just to show you a little bit of do we work in competitive intelligence. I was speaking of scientific publications to be aware of what is going on. And I was also speaking of technological solutions which can be coming up from patents analysis. So I will briefly present two ways to look at those problems and to see how the use of what people produce in science and technologies could be considered for you as some sort of assistant. When somebody makes a paper, it works, it publishes the results, and you will be able to use these results to implement your research and to go further. But to do that, you must have a wider view of what is going on, not only in your area of research, but in all the whereabouts of this area. So let's go, first of all, to scientific publication, and second of all, to patents. So to show you that this is fairly usable, I use Google Scholar, which is very simple, everybody can access. And I use to analyze it, the Who's Viewer, which is available. You have just to key up Who's Viewer and download the products. And to extract data from Google Scholar, I use a POP system, publish or perish, which was developed by Hannah Zings, and which helps you to download data from Google Scholar. So if we move to these representations, when I put the query C and Rising, which is important in C Island, I have this sort of screen where I have all the titles, the name of the authors, and after you have some sort of score. But for what we are doing, we will not consider. We will consider just the title of the paper and the date right here. So if I do this Y and I make a very short search from 2017 to 2022 and an extract with POP on text format, the query C and Rising, I will get 221 papers. Now, I am not going to read 221 papers because this is too long. So I have to find a way to represent what are in those 221 publications and to be able to have an overview of what is going on, to be able to pick up what will be interesting for me to develop my research or to find solutions linked to the problems which are arising in the island. So when you do that, the analysis using Who's Viewer will help you to select topics which are appearing in the titles and which can be useful for what wants to analyze. So that's up to you to select the topics which are interesting for you. When this is finished, the system will automatically make the cluster which are linked to the different terms that you have picked up. Cluster means that terms which are closer from each other will be grouped all together. And when you do that, you will get this sort of results. This is a representation of the data obtained from the 221 publications when you are clustering the systems. So now, this is a global map, but clicking on different points right here will be able to develop the contents of what is inside and to pick up clusters which will be interesting for you. So this title extraction will be represented this way. Weather change, sea level rise, century, 100, glacier, coastal area. You have many topics, and out of those topics, you can select those which will be interesting for you. For instance, the cluster community. Community is very important because you have island we are really submit to sea rising, and the community has to find solutions, even immigration or maybe protection of the shore and so on. So this cluster will help you to pick up the type of publications which are really linked to the problem of the community. Now, if you do another cluster by clicking, for instance, the climate change, you will see what people are doing in this research linked to sea rising in islands, and that will help you to pick up the information which will be relevant for you to build up from this information and discussing and seeing the impact of this work on what you are doing, on what the position that you are having in the islands that you are working with, that will give you some sort of background of research on which you will be able to integrate your own research and develop what you want to do. So now, that's for scientific publications. So now, you have also another type of representation. This is by year. So if you look at scale, you have the yellow one, which are the works which are done today. So today, what people are looking for: coastal cities, Arctics, 21st century projection, coastal city response, bidirectional feedback. This is what is going on today. And 2017 was what people was doing 4 years ago. So this is interesting also to have a way to see what people are going today and to see what the research up to date which is developed in this area. Now let's move to patents. I use the Lens patent database. This is free, so everybody can use it. And I make the same, I make the search shore and protections. And this is linked to sea rising, so you have to protect the shore, and you have many ways to protect it. Shore protection piece, and shore protection structure, shore protection, and so on. And you have 594 patents which are retrieved. So if you look the usual way, you are not going to read 594 patents. This is impossible, this is too long. So again, what we are going to do is to cluster excuse me, to cluster the different patents to have an overview of what is inside. So to do that, I use the same viewer and I look at map. You see that the term model is very important. This is because you have many Chinese patents, and in Chinese patents, you have many patents which are beginning in their abstract by the term the utility models. So what I do, I get rid of the term models to have a better map. And I got a type of map, which is very complicated at first sight, but in fact, which is a description of what the system of protection on the shore which have been patented. And the same way that for the publications, I can retrieve various clusters, such as the platform, such as cluster, which is dealing with another ideas of protections. And from cluster to cluster, because you are clicking on the different point, you will be able to explore thousands of patents looking for new ideas, applications, and innovations. So in fact, one thing which is interesting is that patent second research and research second patents. And this is very important when you are looking to something in the world, that you will get the information which will be necessary to help your search to be in the mainstream of what is going on. So as a conclusions, I will say that in the world of research and technology, thousands of researchers publish scientific papers or patents. We must consider them as collaborators. In fact, when you look all the information coming up from all the work of people, you will be able to make a better research and to get better results, because the research will be very relevant, because you will not reinvent the wheel, but you will add your research in what was already done, and you will help to go a little bit and a little step further. So appreciate what is happening in your environment. This is very important. Know the various impact of the field in which you work. You are working, for instance, in some area of science, but this area of science is linked to other area of science, and your result could be interesting not only for what you are looking for, but for size applications. And this is what we call an holistic view of the problems and the interaction of island and ocean. Set up for your institution, for yourself, the strategic intelligence you need. try to think globally, which means that you have thousands of information which are available to you. You have also facilities to understand what is going on in this area. And you have the model, which can be an island, with also problems which could be concentrated on it. So from all these elements, you will be able to set up a strategic intelligence unit, not only for an institution, but it could be done for yourself, for your laboratories. And then you will have one of the most beautiful tools allowing you to approach complexity, to understand it, and to develop the most useful research. Today, the research is very important, and the link to research, to what should be done, is very important also. And this is why, personally, I think that it is very important for you to think globally and to try to find some model which will be interesting for the development of a useful research. Indonesia has many islands. You will be subject to the impact of weather change, of ocean problems, of eventually sanitary problems, food problems, and so on. And that's the reason why I think that in the position where you are, you have also facility to make a very useful and important research, not only for yourself, but also for your country itself. So I thank you for your attention. I can answer your question if any, and I hope that this meeting will be very valuable for all the people who are looking and participating.
Okay, give applause to Professor Hendri. Thank you very much, Professor. I hope you in a good condition today.
So I have
That's all for our three invited speakers. Maybe we have to go into the next session for question and answer session. I will open to questions only for today. Please, Miss. Yes. And then the second one will be Mas over there. Okay.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Pia Yermanita from Raja Ali Haji University, Faculty of Engineering, majoring in Informatic Engineering. I want to ask to the second speaker, Mr. Dr. Ferry G.
Yeah.
The question is, in your opinion, is it still possible to apply this supply chain management to the condition of supplying goods in the future, considering the increasing rapid development of technology, which is likely to take over human activity? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, should I just answer questions straight away, Pak Moderator?
Okay, please, Mr. Ferry.
Okay, a great question. So, in terms of the supply chain, since we are in Industry 4.0, you know, Industry 4.0 is technology, what we call technology in supply chain, such as robotics, artificial intelligence, sensor, augmented reality or virtual reality, as well as machine learning or deep learning. So in terms of the end-to-end supply chain, you know, we are in the Industry 4.0 since 2012. A lot of businesses, multinational corporations, they implement like robotics, like Amazon, for example, in a warehouse. When I had site visit before COVID in Manchester in United Kingdom, Amazon is actually using robotics and, you know, voice picking and also sorting for all parcels, the deliveries in the warehouse. They not using a lot more human and labor, but again, they use more in technology to maintain accuracy, to manage the inventory, to speed up that process, you know, for the supply chain performance. That is the main purpose. Now, I got your points because since for the countries like Indonesia or India or other countries have a biggest populations in the world, for example, a lot of business still using human workforce, you know, but again, we can just looking at upskilling them. Instead of using the same process, the same task, you know, what they do in the workplace, that's something we need to understand in terms of job description and job task for the people or human there. So I quite strongly disagree when technology can replace the human in terms of to increase their productivity in the supply chain or effectiveness and efficiency in supply chain. But again, that's another purpose in order to implement the supply chain. Say, for example, like cyber security, information security. You can see that in the 2020, since the COVID in the 2020, 2021, so many spam and, you know, scam and, you know, hacking, a lot of in the information security, for example. So that's why we need to have information security in terms of doing payment, in the process of payment for the supply chain, or ordering, processing, transportation routing, and etc. Even in a maritime, for example, technology, we can still using that technology to deal with the sea freight or submarine, for example, or maritime, for example, for the project. So that's a good thing actually, since you are studying in informatic engineering. I think what I suggest to you, looking at that, what opportunities there in terms of the technology implementing in what context, and seeking the opportunity, what project you will be able to do that. Again, student, actually graduate student, need to study and to look at what actually you know, industry needs in terms of when they recruit people, workforce actually in the industry, right? That's something is a challenge, I believe, not only for informatic engineering student, but also all of us, okay? So we are in the new era, so you need to just understanding what opportunity, what challenges there to ensure we are work ready. Because if we're not ready and we can't compete all graduate from other countries, right? So that's something, my message to all of students there in Indonesia, or maybe all around the world. So make sure they really need to upskill, reskilling, and also to be as a work ready and a more resilient, right? When they work in the workplace. So I think I answer your question. Sorry if my answer is just quite long. So thank you.
Very well. Thank you very much, Dr. Ferry. To the next question. Yes, Mas, over there. Microphone, please. Yeah.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thanks for the opportunity. My name Yuda. I'm from Faculty of Engineering, student University Maritime of Arajaliaji. My question to Mr. Ferry. I wanna ask about SCM, supply chain management. If SCM can be implemented on a tough terrain or some place with a poor infrastructure, let's say on Indonesia. Indonesia have many islands. Is it effective, especially on secluded island? Thank you.
Yeah, very good questions. Well, supply chain actually can be implemented not necessarily for metropolitan, but also remote area. You know, in a rural community, for example. Say, I'm doing project, for example, in Australia for indigenous, for bush tucker, you know, supply chain. So as you can see, a lot of problems, you know, food supply in the remote area, such as in Australia. So not necessarily in Indonesia, you know, in indigenous or bush tucker, because when the COVID situation, they just have a lack of supply of food, you know, to reach out the remote of villages in remote island or remote area in Australia, especially dealing with the indigenous Aboriginal Torres Islander in here. So I think to answer your question, the short answer yes, but the thing is a lot of work. In terms of supply chain, one particular thing is preparedness, and also number two, whether or not that infrastructure in that remote area can get access to the people and the stakeholders, especially dealing with transportation. If we have a problem in terms of getting access for the transportation on the road, whether or not we can do by sea, right? Transportation not necessarily by road, also by sea or by aeroplane or by pipeline or by intermodal. So that is the logistics, right? So transportation is not necessarily by road. It's a having problem infrastructure by road, whether or not like in Riau, Pekanbaru, for example, whether or not we can utilize more infrastructure like port, for example, by sea freight, using sea by sea, for example, right? But again, you need to understand what particular feasibility study in terms of to get access for remote, as Indonesia has many islands is correct, but again, we need to make sure in the right infrastructure, in the right transportation equipment, and also in the right in terms of the strategy when they're managing the supply chain in that region, right? So we need to have a lot of scholar researchers in that space, because that's why we need to have supply chain researchers, because otherwise it does not help at all to build up and to support community there in that island, right? And maybe people like struggling in terms of to get food. For example, my project right now for the bush tucker, for indigenous, for remote area, a lot of people struggling in order to get proper food. So that is particular what we talk about supply chain. Make sure the product actually getting there is actually in the right time, not delay, in the right quality, as well as in the right quantity, right? So that is a supply chain principle. So I think that's messages I can suggest to you. It is good for research, especially if you are from Faculty of Engineering. It's good for research. You have to think about it. We got the problems there already. That's something how we work together for the research, right? So this is something useful for the research project, maybe for undergrad thesis, or maybe for postgraduate or doctorate thesis for the project. Okay, hopefully I can answer your question.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Very well. Thank you very much, Dr. Ferici. I will invite the other participants. Maybe if you have any questions to the other speakers, maybe raise your hands. Yeah, but if you have any questions to maybe Prof. Hendri or Prof. Agung Dhamar Syakti. Or maybe online audience. Oh, okay.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the opportunity. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Sud Putri Khairani from Informatics Engineering. I want to ask to the third speakers. My question I wanna ask, how do we as researchers to be able to develop a holistic view in the scope of research? Is it possible to take steps so that we can take a holistic point of view? That is my question. Thank you in advance.
Professor, is the question clear enough for you? Or do the audience have to repeat the questions?
How do we as researchers to be able to develop a holistic view in the scope of research? Is it possible to take steps so that we can take a holistic point of view?
Okay. Bon, that's a good question. One of the problems is to ask a question which is the following. You are making a research and you have to ask to yourself, what is the usefulness of the research that I am doing? And to have an answer to these questions, you have to go back to the literature, which is the base. You have to look to what the other people are doing. You have to look to what type of problems your research could be applied. And in these conditions, you can develop some sort of a global view to what is linked to your research from close to very loose, and to be able to move your research in areas which will be useful either for applications, either for the development of further research in link with needs, local needs, or local development. As the following questions, where I am, that means that what I am doing, what are my competencies, and after, where do I want to do? Well, what do you want to do really? Do you want to make a research just to make scientific papers, that's all? In this condition, I mean, it will not be very useful globally speaking. And after, how I will do it? This is a strategy. For instance, a question which asked by one of the people about the supply chain and the fact that you are in an engineering school. I mean, you have to ask this question. In the supply chain, you have several steps which are linked all together. You have to pick up, according to your competencies, which type of piece in the supply chain you will be able to bring something. And after that, do I have the facility to make it? Do I have the competency? If you have the competencies, after maybe you don't have the facilities. So you have to look to people which have the facilities to make a sort of joint venture, to work together and so on, and to apply your knowledge to solve the solutions. If you do that, by training your mind to look this way, to think this way, you will be able to have what we call a global view of what is going on in a research area, and then to find and to apply good solutions. That's what I tell you, that islands are sort of laboratories, which are very interesting. I am also very surprised also times because in Indonesia, you are still making research, what we call in silo, vertically. But the research need pluridisciplinarity. You need to discuss with the people which are closer from you and which maybe can use your search and research and the result to do other things. And if you do that, you will progress very rapidly and you will make something which will be very valuable.
Very well. Thank you, Professor. Give applause to Professor Agung. Maybe we invite Professor Wolfing. Maybe if you have any questions to the presenters. Prof. Wolfing? No? Okay. 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 If there's any questions or audience, I will invite one more questions maybe for the speaker. Just raise your hand if you have questions. Oh, okay. Sorry, Mr. Holanda. I didn't see you raise your hand.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. Thank you for Professor Hendri and Mr. Ferry to can participate with us. My name is Hollanda. I'm one of the lecturer in electrical engineering. Based on both of you, you have says very good things to our students, so they can motivate to their study. So for my question itself, for Mr. Ferry, you said that IoT or Internet of Things is one of aspect that will make change or will useful in the supply chain management. But I don't know how we can implement the IoT itself in the supply chain management. Maybe you can elaborate it. So maybe in the future, our student can have some idea to implement the IoT in the warehouse, maybe in the local warehouse. And for Professor Hendri, last question for me. We as a lecturer, sometimes we are very not eager or maybe lazy to start to research again, because we got another job that we must educate the young people. So right now you have the was viewer, and then you try to combine and then to see the gap of the research right now. But what is your advice for the young lecturer to have the motivation to have eager or to have something that we can do for our next research, for example, for the doctoral research? Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Okay, maybe first Professor Hendri, if you want to answer the question.
Okay. So, well, this is a difficult question, but I think that what is very important when you are building up a lecture and when you are just teaching to young people, to open the mind of these people. That means that research will be seen in two ways. You can see the research by itself, like something which will be in a very teeny area, where you have to be the specialist of this area, which is interesting, of course. But you must also, when you are teaching something, opening the eyes of people, but by showing all the application and the implications of the research and the problem that you are developing and the lectures that you are making. So I will suggest that when you are making a lecture at the beginning, you will spend a little bit of time to really situate this type of lecture of research in its environment. I mean, the environment which can be social, which can be technical, which can be any type of impact that this research can have around you, and to show to people that what you are doing is not really the fact that you move things in the laboratories and to make experiments, but this is also to think to what will be the implications, what they are doing on their environment, on their life, and on their community. So this is very important to situate the research not only in the space of a laboratory with walls where the research is not coming out of that and you're speaking between researchers, but you put something wider and to have the idea of what you are doing, what will be interesting for the community, what will be interesting on the social point of view of the applications of what you are doing. So if you do that, I think that the background of the lecture will be most understandable by the people, and that will open their eyes to new areas and new possibilities.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Maybe Dr. Ferry can continue answering the questions.
Okay, great questions in terms of IoT or Internet of Things in the supply chain. It is the new area for research, especially for the Faculty of Engineering or Faculty of Computer Science, to do that space. As you know, Internet of Things, everything of Internet can be implemented in an end-to-end supply chain, not necessarily in a warehouse, but also in the transportation itself. Especially for the manufacturing of factory, for example, if we look at, say, for example, the capturing data or using the RFID, radio frequency identification, or the barcoding for each stock keeping unit product can be transferred based on internet, for example, from suppliers, also transportation company or third-party logistic providers, including actually port or containerization, including international logistic or international supply chain. So the Internet of Things is a one approach to support the supply chain performance, to ensure the product actually in a good inventory, in a good for the particular demand. It can be translated to the analytics for decision making. So Internet of Things itself can help for the business owners or managers for decision making. We need to have data and information really. In order to do that, we need to have Internet of Things, right? We need to have sensor. We need to have for example scanning technology to capture all the data, product, pricing, demand, location, customers even. We can use the Internet of Things. So Internet of Things is a broader scope, but we need to look narrow it down. What aspect are you looking at? Are you looking at more supplier relationship management, which is SRM, which is the upstream? Are you looking at more customer relationship management, which is CRM? Are you looking at more warehousing operation or transportation management aspect? Or could be environmental aspect, could be ecosystem in a supply chain. We can use the Internet of Things. Say, for example, for COVID-19, a lot of hospitals in Australia, they implement for what we call health informatics in terms of Internet of Things in the pharmaceutical or hospital, industry, right? So they trying to not rely on the labor for the nurse, for the medical practitioners. They use a lot more, for example, robots, right, to hand over the catering, the meal to the patient. So in the ward room, for example, for the first floor, for COVID-19 patient, for example, they're not using the nurse to hand over the food to them, right? So they use the robots, and the Internet of Things can capture, this is the patient on level 1, ward number 01 is the COVID patient having diabetes, having cholesterol, for example, and that technology can capture any dietary requirement for that patient, and what time they have a morning tea, what time for they have lunch, what time they have afternoon tea, and so on. Right? So that is, we need to have internet-based technology to we use that different types of storage of the data, we use the internet, right? So as more in supply chain expert, but I'm working very closely with
Dr. Feriji, I think you have unstable connection of your internet. Maybe we lost the connection with him.
Algorithm, a platform, software programming, but I'm actually in a supply chain expert. So they have to, this is the
Dr. Ferry, I do apologize that maybe we have a bad connection with you in internet. Maybe we just stop the discussions, perhaps.
Can everybody hear me?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that, because I know it's a problem with the connection since in the afternoon, but on and off. But anyway, hopefully I can answer the question. So yeah. So in terms of Internet of Things, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Give applause to all the speakers. I've got some information that you have shared your contact, personal contacts. Yes, maybe that's the email of Dr. Ferry G. Maybe all the audience for in person or online audience can save the number of Dr. Ferry G. If you can see, as you can see in your screen. Plus,
yeah, thank you so much.
414-968-978.
Yeah, that one is the +61 is a country code.
Okay.
Make sure it's +61, not +62.
Okay.
+61. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Ferry.
You're welcome.
Okay. Maybe we come to the end of the session. I would like, before closing the session, I would like to thank you all the invited speakers for today. Give a warm applause to all speakers, please. Okay. Thank you very much for the all informative and also the active
Thank you.
audience.
Thank you everybody, and bye bye.
Yeah.
Thank you and bye bye.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, good afternoon and assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alright, so we give applause for all invited speaker and our moderator in the parallel session too. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of our session today of our conference. I'm Titania Anggreni as the Master of Ceremony. Thanks for your attention and your participation. See you tomorrow at 8 a.m. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Recording stopped.
Thank you.